Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 3 breakout wide receivers for the 2023 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my top 3 breakout wide receivers for the 2023 fantasy football season. We begin at number 1 with Christian Watson of the Green Bay Packers, current underdog ADP wide receiver 20 at pick 39.7. Last year, he was the wide receiver 34 in half PPR and the wide receiver 30 in half PPR points per game. Playing in 14 games last season with 11 starts, he had 65 targets, 4.6 per game, number 65 at wide receiver, 41 receptions, 2.9 per game, number 64, 611 receiving yards, 43.6 per game, number 52, and he had 9 total touchdowns, 4th at wide receiver. He had 7.4 target accuracy, 41st at wide receiver, because again, remember last year, Aaron Rodgers wasn't the best version of Aaron Rodgers we've ever seen. Now, Aaron Rodgers wasn't absolutely atrocious. He wasn't out there looking like Mono Man Sam Darnold seeing ghosts, but there were points during last season where it was like, wow, this is not the discount double check. This isn't the back-to-back MVP that we are used to. So going from Rodgers to Jordan Love, obviously, in a vacuum, you would much rather have Aaron Rodgers. And anyone saying that they would rather have Jordan Love on the Packers in terms of Christian Watson's success and the outlook of the Green Bay Packers is probably just lying on a one-year sample size. I do believe that Jordan Love is good enough to get it done for this Green Bay Packers offense, and I don't think they are going to want to have Jordan Love throwing the ball a million times a game. Now, when I say that, some people's ears might perk up and they might start to get nervous. They think, Nick, if they want to run the ball a bunch, how can Christian Watson be successful? Thing is, we have seen this in the past. Even teams that want to run the ball at a high rate, you just can't run the ball all game, and someone's got to be that number 1 wide receiver. And to me, when you're looking at the wide receiver room of the Packers with Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, it's very clear that Christian Watson is the best wide receiver on this team. He had a 102.5% true catch rate last season, ranking 7th at wide receiver. Basically, the only negative you can find for Christian Watson is the quarterback. Anyone that says that Christian Watson isn't good enough to be this top 12 wide receiver in fantasy football is directly lying to you. I think that Jordan Love is going to be relatively decent. Do I think he's the second coming of Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre? No. How lucky would it be for the Packers to have drafted Brett Favre, then draft Aaron Rodgers, and then draft Jordan Love, and all 3 of them end up being Hall of Famers, right? If they go 2 for 3, they would be immensely excited. So I think Jordan Love is going to be relatively decent. He was a first-round NFL draft pick, obviously, as we know. Just because he was a first-round draft pick doesn't mean that instantly or at all you're going to be successful in the NFL. We have seen guys be drafted very high and be terrible. Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, just to name a few. Ultimately, though, I do think to kind of put a nice bow on this conversation that even if the Packers aren't throwing at an immensely high clip, Christian Watson is still going to be able to get it done. He is by far and away the best wide receiver and the best pass-catching weapon on this team. And we saw when Aaron Rodgers got hurt up against the Philadelphia Eagles last year in prime time that Jordan Love came into the game for Aaron Rodgers and threw a missile to Christian Watson, and he scored a touchdown. So I think that Christian Watson is just fine in this situation in Green Bay. Moving next to player number 2 here, we got Jordan Addison. I want a bad bitch. Jordan Addison Ray of the Minnesota Vikings, underdog ADP wide receiver 35 at pick 68.2.8 picks off of being very nice, I like, with pick number 69. With Adam Thielen gone in Carolina, there is no way that Addison doesn't slot in as the number 2 wide receiver. I know in years prior, we've kind of felt the spark of KJ Osborne, but ultimately, all that was a spark. We saw some solid games, but we saw zero consistency, and I think Jordan Addison is more of a flame. He is going to be a consistent piece in this offense, and if he gets that Adam Thielen role that we've seen in the past, Jordan Addison is going to see an ass load of targets. Now, obviously, the biggest difference between Jordan Addison and Christian Watson in today's video that we're talking about is Christian Watson, to me, by far and away the clear number 1, the top dog wide receiver in his offense. Jordan Addison has that true number 1 next to him, right? He has Justin Jefferson, but we've seen it across the NFL, these wide receiver number 2s be very successful for fantasy. T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, all guys that we are drafting in the top 2 or 3 rounds of fantasy drafts, and they're not even the number 1 wide receiver on their own fucking team. Jordan Addison has first-round draft capital. Now, he is not the biggest guy on earth, right? He's not Andre the Giant. He's 5'11", 173 pounds, but I think with how good this Vikings offense looked last year, with how pass-heavy this offense shifted, because if you remember, in the past, this was a team that wants to churn the rock, run the rock with Dalvin Cook directly down the throat of the defense. Don't make Kirk go chains, fuck things up. Let's just run the ball. Last year, they started to be a little bit more pass-heavy, and Kirk Cousins looked really good in that scenario. Last year, Jordan Addison played 11 games at USC as a 20-year-old. He had 49 receptions on 84 targets, a 70.2% catch rate, 875 receiving yards, 14.8 yards per reception, 16.3% target share in the offense, and 8 receiving touchdowns for USC. Again, I think this Vikings team is going to continue to step on the gas in terms of being a high-octane passing offense. They get rid of Dalvin Cook as I'm recording today's video. We don't know where Dalvin Cook's going. Could be a Dolphin, a Bill, a Chief. There's a bunch of teams, Dallas Cowboys, that are kind of being, the little birdies are speaking about him, right? But at the end of the day, I strongly believe that Jordan Addison's the clear number 2 in this offense, with the upside of being that 1B, like Jalen Waddle is Tyreek's 1B. The 1A is Tyreek, the 1B is Jalen Waddle. There's Jamar, wide receiver 1A, and then T. Higgins, wide receiver 1B. I think in his rookie year, he could easily eclipse over 1,000 receiving yards, and I think we are sleeping on him right now. Even at the ADP of wide receiver 35, he could easily be, in my opinion, a top 24 wide receiver in fantasy football. And then there's also the off chance, now again, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, but we have to speak about it. If Justin Jefferson was to get hurt, Jordan Addison would fucking catapult into the top 12 rankings, top 18 rankings at the wide receiver position every single week, because again, this is a Vikings team that wants to throw the ball a ton. They do have TJ Hawkinson, and obviously that's not the best thing to have for Jordan Addison. It's a great thing for the Minnesota Vikings offense, but I still think in the role Jordan Addison is going to be in this offense, even with TJ Hawkinson, I do have very high beliefs in Jordan Addison Ray. Before we get on into wide receiver number 3 here, we have talked about Underdog Fantasy a couple of times in today's video. They are the sponsor of today's video. Now, if you are brand new to Underdog Fantasy, they are the best place to play best ball fantasy football this summer. Best ball is the best part, in my opinion, about fantasy football. It's the draft, and that's it. You do your 18-round draft, there's no waivers, there's no in-season management, and there's no trades. So you do the draft, the 18 rounds, and then as the season goes along, Underdog automatically every single week puts your highest scores into your lineup for you. So if you put the wrong wide receiver in your fantasy lineup, your regular redraft league, you don't have to worry about that because your highest scores go into the lineup every single week, and you could just not pay attention at all, come back at the end of the season and potentially have a boatload of money. You can also check in every single week if you want, if you are new to Underdog Fantasy, and click on the link in the video description. You will get a $100 first match deposit bonus. So if you deposit a $100 onto Underdog, they'll give you an additional $100. If you deposit $50, you can get additional $50. They have the biggest best ball contest ever, $25 to enter 150 max entries. $3 million in first place, $15 million in total prizes. If that seems like a little much, hey, you're newer to best ball, you want to just kind of dive into the kiddie pool, the little range, you don't want to go into the deep end instantly. They also have a $5 contest with $1 million in total prizes, the Puppy 2. So make sure you guys check that out. Link in the video description, or promo code Notorious when you sign up. It's an app as well as a website. And again, I only talk about websites or apps that I actually use. So now we move to my number 3 breakout wide receiver, the 2023 NFL season, the fantasy football season. Rondale Moore of the Arizona Cardinals, current Underdog ADP wide receiver 64 at pick 139.7. Rondale Moore has been rising up the boards recently in fantasy drafts on Underdog. Rondale Moore has become a hot commodity for fantasy football. Wide receiver, 88.5 PPR and 47 in points per game last year, tied with Drizzy Drake London. 8 games played in 2022, 56 targets, 7 per game, 75th. 41 receptions, 5.1 per game, 64th. 214 receiving yards, 51.8 per game, 83rd. And 1 total touchdown, 105th. Now, my biggest worry with this whole Arizona Cardinals offense is that my beliefs are truly right, and Kyler Murray doesn't even fucking grace the field this season. That's a worry of mine. That is a big worry, because if Kyler Murray does not come back, because maybe he's good to go week 4. Cardinals are 0-4. They're like, okay, maybe we win this week, then we'll bring him back. We don't want to just throw him in there. And that's like week 6, and they're 1-5, and there's no reason to bring Kyler back. You don't want to risk the re-injury. And then he has to deal with the quarterback situation, Rondale Moore being, or Hollywood Brown, and you got Jeff Driscoll, or Colt McCoy, or David Blau. Right? That's bad. But there's also a chance that Kyler comes back. He's perfectly fine. The Cardinals aren't this disaster of a team that I predict they could be. They don't implode without Kyler. And this offense just starts humming with Kyler Murray, because if we knew Kyler Murray was good to go for week number 1 and DeAndre Hopkins is gone and the wide receiver room is Hollywood Brown, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, and Zach fucking Pascal, you better believe Rondale Moore is going to be like wide receiver 48 off the board. But instead, he's wide receiver 64 because of the quarterback situation. Again, DeAndre Hopkins is gonzo. Still don't know what team he's going to be on, but he's gone. There's not that much target competition. Last year, Rondale Moore, 5.19 target quality rating, 65th. 2.13 target separation. He's a great separator, 13th. 45.6% route win rate, 21st. And 2.44 target separation versus man, 2nd. This man has crispy routes. Crispy like the cream on your donuts, right? Rondale Moore is a very talented player. And even though I'm scared shitless about the quarterback situation, it's baked into the ADP. The fact that we might have to deal with Colt 45 and 2 zigzags, McCoy, or Jeff Driscoll, or Davis Blau as the quarterback is baked in. And I think his ADP is going to keep rising, even if we have one of these garbage cans playing quarterback. Because they're going to have to throw the ball. Defense isn't good enough to just run with James Conner all game like I'm sure they would want to with this bad quarterback crew. So again, even with the 3 fucking stooges potentially playing quarterback for the Cardinals, the upside's there. And if Kyler comes back down like the shining light and he is healthy and he's good to go by like week 5, Rondale Moore is going to be the hottest trade target in fantasy. One of the hottest. Hollywood Brown also, because man, oh man, if Kyler's there, Rondale is going to break out, and I think he's going to break out even with these scrubs at quarterback. So, in conclusion, as you would say if you're writing an essay, thank you guys all so much for watching. Let me know down below in the comment section if you've got any other breakout wide receivers that you want to talk about. I love talking to you guys in the comments. I hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button if you're new, and even if you're not new, hit that like button. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great guys' day, and as always, good boy.